In this real estate market update, we're going to dig into the data and we're going to talk about how it's impacting buyers, sellers, and investors across Canada in a very turbulent real estate market. We're going to discuss the recent Bank of Canada interest rate drop and how it's affecting sentiment, boots on the ground, and what our forecast is for the balance of the year and what it means for the summer housing market. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Justin Konikow, one of the co-owners of Prime with my incredible wife and team. We're located in Southwestern Ontario, Canada, but we have a global referral network and we collaborate and mastermind with agents, investors, developers, builders, mortgage agents, everybody in between across the entire nation to get a read on what's happening. And then we just translate that information to you directly on this channel. Now, there's one major highlight that I want to point out is when you're reading your local board's recent market data, it is lagging information. Typically, the data they're giving you are saying sales are at an all-time low, but that's data from last month. And that's why we do these videos, is we want to tell you what's actually happening today in the marketplace, because what you're reading and what may actually be happening might be two very different things. And if you think that may impact your buying decisions, let me know in the comments. But let's dig right into the data. So across Canada, the sales activity from May 2024 from May to 2023 has dropped dramatically. That's a 10% drop. Hence the headlines you've been reading. But I can also tell you that January to March was very busy and the sentiment shifted dramatically and the weather was absolutely terrible March through April, which is why you're seeing a lot of this lagging data. The total dollar volume of sales dropped, which we actually would have mentioned to you in our previous market update that you can just smell the activity wasn't there. The total number of new listings has increased 9.8% and a big jump of active listings of 52.4%. Sales to new listings ratio is about 60%, meaning there are quite a few sales actually still happening. 1.8 months of inventory nationally. We're going to talk about that for Southwestern Ontario in a little bit. And the average price has decreased 2.8% and decreased median price of 2.7 and a sales to list price ratio of 100.4, meaning if you sold your home for $100, it actually sold for $100.40. The median days on market is still only 12, meaning if you're priced correctly, you should sell fairly quickly. Now, I'm going to share with you a very important thing that you need to remember. I'm sharing national statistics. Real estate is local. So getting national stats is great. Getting provincial stats is good. Getting a citywide statistic is helpful, but getting comparables and stats directly close to your asset class type, area, and time frame is the most important. I can tell you there's a lot of headline reading going on, a lot of clickbaiting going on in the news where they're using headlines to make people react, to comment, because that's what the social media accounts reward. But I can also tell you it is very different depending on if you're selling a single family home that needs a little bit of work, a luxury home on acreage, or a brand new construction home. All of those asset classes operate very differently. And guess what? Agriculture and commercial real estate is still ripping. So you really need to be paying attention to what are you trying to accomplish? Where are you trying to accomplish it? And what is that asset class acting like? And that's where we can really help you from that standpoint, connect you with the right people that are actually doing the deals, boots on the ground. I'm not talking about the Instagram agents or the TikTok people that are trying to be celebrities. I'm talking about the people that have the data, that knows exactly what happened on offers last week, the context to the data and the context to the sales, because it is very, very important. But I digress. Let's zoom in a little bit because this tells you that story in a local market. Now, I don't care if you're located anywhere in Canada. If you are, jump in the comments and let us know. We would love to hear it. Our audience seems to be from everywhere, even the States. But this is the London-St. Thomas region. Now, there is fractionalization when it comes to data, but this data is helpful to show you what's happening in a micro market. And I'll even show you a little bit more of the actual graph that we see on the back end. And this is relating to that same board. I told you real estate boards and data are fractionalized, meaning there's three boards that we operate in Southwestern Ontario. There's ITSO, there's PropTX, and there's Sarnia. Each of those are an island of data unto themselves. They don't actually cross-pollinate. So the information that I'm sharing here is for ITSO. I have to navigate three systems when I'm doing comparables for my clients and pull data from all three and compile them into my final report. But just for argument's sake, let's look at this graph. And this shows you from all time, from when they started tracking data back in 2011 to where things are at today. So the average, sorry, that's the median price. The average price is 800 grand, 853 as of today in ITSO. If I go May 2023, you can see it is 807,738. So it's actually dropped about 3 grand and change, right? So that gives you an idea of how nominal the actual price difference is from this year until last year. I'd also say look at the Number of new listings hitting the market. Last year was a bit of an anomaly. December always drops off a cliff, spiked to about May, dropped off, spiked back in September. So we had more of a busy fall market than previous years, dropped down to December, and is on its way back up. And historically, May of every year, you tend to see a spike. Now, if this is the spike of inventory and properties start coming off the market and buyers keep coming back because interest rates dropped, what do you think that does to the housing market? Total number of homes for sale has been dropping and bouncing and increasing. Now we're getting back to like 2016 levels, which is super interesting to see. The number of sales increasing and is tapering off. Normally would increase till May every year. Guess what? It's May. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a taper off and a drop. And average days on market spiked in January to 39, dropped to 16, and is on its way back up. 5 days above the national average, I would point out, the national average being 12 and our average being 17. Actually, that was the median. Our average is actually 29. That's a big difference in terms of data and planning. Typically, we're planning 30 to 40 days out for our clients that if we're buying something, prepping their homes for sale, you're assuming that there's going to be 30 to 40 days on market. You're going to factor that into your closing and your strategy, which is super important. And then months of supply is climbing back up to 4.7 months. And that means if we never listed another house, we would be about 4.7 months before we ran out of houses to sell. Percentage of original price is an interesting one. I'll jump over to percentage of list price. I always think this is an interesting one. So the average percentage of list price spiked in February 2022, meaning you would sell 20% over asking. You listed for $1 million, sold for 1.2. Today it sits at about 99.4, meaning you list for $1 million, you sell for $999,400, right? So that gives you an idea of when you're offering on properties, what that would look like in terms of your range. You're going to offer on $1 million property and offer 600. People are trying that. It's not necessarily working. That said, you can still find great deals out there if you are shopping and doing your homework. It takes 10 times the amount of work, but there are deals to be had. And if you're a seller, you can fight for your price if you know how to fight. Average dollar per square foot, you're looking at $433. The peak was around $537. So it's about $100 drop and change. And total dollar volume of real estate that is traded is back up to $5 billion. And that is above May 2017, 5.3. Oh, it's actually just under May 2017. So being intellectually honest here, we're back to that frame of market and it kind of feels like it. Now, jumping over to the Bank of Canada rate drop, a lot of people were thinking that it was not going to happen. And then at the last second, everything changed and sentiment spiked. Now banks are forecasting 3 more drops before the end of the year, which I would not be surprised. They need to do something to get GDP and employment ripping again in Canada. And I think we're struggling a little bit from a productivity standpoint. Still feels like we're in recessionary times. Food, gas, everything else is so expensive. People are tightening their belts and they're trying to find ways to do more with less. What do you think is going to happen at the next rate announcement? Do you think they drop in July? Do you think that they continue holding? Be very curious to hear the thoughts of the audience on this topic. What I can tell you it has done to the marketplace is I don't think it's made a huge difference in terms of buying power, but you're definitely seeing a return of people to the marketplace, meaning their buying power didn't change a lot, but their confidence that the rates are going to continue to drop definitely did. And if the last stat was 75% of buyers were on the sidelines and 10% come back in June and 10% come back in July and so on and so forth, I can see a place where the inventory gets leveled out and we return back to more of a normal marketplace. Not 2020, not 2022, but a balanced marketplace, which is better for everybody. There's a huge misnomer that real estate agents are pumping the market and we love it when it's frothy and things are selling over asking with no conditions. I actually hate it. I like doing my due diligence. I like finding great deals for my buyers and fighting for my sellers. And you can do that more in a new marketplace than anywhere else. But that's it for the stats section. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to talk more in depth about the Bank of Canada future rate announcements, what we see from an economic perspective on this channel. We also drop off market properties and invites to the Prime Nation to our mastermind series where we do closed secret events with huge speakers, which we then host on our podcast. So if you'd like to hear about any of that, jump in the comments, let us know who you are, where you're from, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.